Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back once again, or for the very first time, to the Farts and Crap Show, where today I, your host, Danjo, have a bit of a rant for you. And this is a re-recording of a video I've already made that ended up being about an hour, so I decided, you know what? I should probably make a shorter version of that video, because that video got scrapped. Yeah, I'm not going to publish that one. So, all right. So I am playing Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered. We are still on version 1.0.3. This is running on the Switch. It's also available for PS4, iOS, and Android, and it is crossplay between all four of those platforms. And yeah, this game is pretty broken at the time of recording this. And so I'm going to go over basically what I want in the next patch, or in upcoming patches or updates to the game. Now, this was developed and published by Squaresoft back in the day. Actually, they may have been Square Enix at the time, but I think originally it was still Squaresoft. I think it was 2002, I believe. It was around the time when they were doing the merger. Because I think the last game, anyway, I don't remember specifically. It was either this or Kingdom Hearts, I think, was the last Squaresoft title before the merger. But let me know if you know in the comments. That'd be interesting. Yeah, first thing is crashes. Now, I don't remember crashes happening when I played this on the PS4 Pro, but I have had this game crash in multiplayer, online multiplayer, a couple of times. Local multiplayer, never had a crash, but online multiplayer, yes, the game has crashed a couple times, and when that happens, it is very unfortunate because you lose pretty much all of your items that you've collected throughout the dungeon. And yeah, crashes are always bad, so I really want that to be fixed. Secondly, Mog. Man, I love Moogles. Mog included, but Mog is the reason I turn the voice volume all the way down, at least in dungeons. I love the voice acting in this game. It's very endearing, but and it's not really about Mog's voice actor. I'm not saying that. It's just the fact that Mog gets tired of carrying the chalice. And I say of carrying the chalice, not gets tired carrying the chalice. He just complains about it, which I know is unnecessary in the mythos of the game, because when you're busy fighting monsters, he never complains, ever. It's just if you're walking around for a while and you're not fighting anything for a minute, he'll be like, "I'm getting tired, Kupo," and then just slow down. Usually he matches your walking speed. Typically. Until he decides that he's tired. And so you have to carry the chalice for a little while. And it only takes him like 8 seconds. And then he's like, let me carry the chalice. And this is... I get it. Like, thematically, it humanizes Mog a bit more. It gets you to... And in multiplayer, it's like a teamwork thing. Like, it's a burden. Nobody really wants to carry the chalice because they can't do anything else while they're carrying the chalice. And you have to stay within the bubble of the chalice and therefore, like, kind of protect the person carrying the chalice. Now, you could just throw it on the ground, but then you have to stay in that tiny area. And it doesn't work too well if you're, you don't want it on the ground if, like, you're fighting a boss or something. So, here's the thing. Just make it, they should just patch Mog so that he doesn't get tired. And I want Mog in multiplayer, because when you're playing with at least one other person, there is no Mog. And there's no explanation as to where Mog is during multiplayer. It's just like, why not just always have Mog and always carry the chalice? You can still hit X to make him drop it if you need to manually put it somewhere for like a pressure plate or something, which I think that's the only time when you actually have to do that, but still, it's in the game, you know? But I just want Mog in multiplayer, and I want him to never get tired, and if you want to make the players work for it, and like you have to train Mog up or make sure that he's fed, like taking care of him like he's a pet is totally fine. Like the painting thing, like giving him a haircut, the Moogle houses, like those are all fine and great features. I just want to not hear him complain and like slow down and all that stuff, because it's not fun. And that's kind of like the golden rule of video games. If it's not fun, then, you know, work around. Or it's not like a good design in that way, if it's not fun. Or if it breaks the immersion, that's not good. Like, people want to enjoy video games, you know? Few other things. The menu, right? When you open the menu in single player, it pauses the game, which is fine because you need to. This is actually 2 things on my list, but I'm going to talk about both of them now. Talk about the crashes, Mog getting tired and not being in multiplayer. Yeah. Spell fusion. So as you can see, I'm now playing a Uke character. This is my main this time because of endgame items that are specific to the tribes. I didn't know this when I played it the first time on the PS4, and so I picked a Selkie because... Mommy Selkie. Anyway, obvious reasons. And, but the Ukes are just the best mages. They have the best magic stats, they have the best equipment and everything. They're just the best for magic. And I wanted to play a Selkie, but I also wanted to like excel in magic and spec into magic. It's just they don't have the potential, which is kind of terrible. And this isn't on the list, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I want every tribe to be able to do every character. You know, I don't want that to be a limitation. If I want to be like a physical like tank, but be a Uke, I want that. You know, if I want to be like a Selkie mage, I want that. It's kind of like in Final Fantasy 3, like actual Final Fantasy 3, not Final Fantasy 6. You had the job system, and you could basically customize your characters any way you wanted. That was the best. Like, I love that whole system, like in Final Fantasy Tactics too, like Final Fantasy 5. Those games like have my favorite mechanics out of any Final Fantasy game, really. And I kind of want that in this game. Like, they went halfway there. There's already customizing in like how you in how you improve, because you don't level up, you just, you know, have your artifacts like that you collect. And I like that. That's great. That's a core mechanic. I'm not gonna complain about that. But yeah, the real thing here, like, because those are fundamental changes. Those would be hard to actually implement. Is spell fusion. Spell fusion in single player is great. It's fantastic. But they completely change how it works in it's completely different in multiplayer. I'm just like, why? Like, spell fusion, especially when you're playing online, like, you're always gonna deal with a little bit of lag, and I mean, they need to fix that, and the online needs to be better. But yeah, like, the timings are very important. Like, right here is a perfect example. Like, you need to avoid like the poison crap, and you need to have the timings. Like, you need to know the timings, like, specifically, and especially for like boss fights and stuff. Pulling off spell fusion, it just takes a little bit too long every single time. So you're going to be using, especially for your magic characters, like, if you don't have the ring or specific, you know, weapon to like pull off a spell that you want to use, it's not gonna be a good time. So that's what I want. And you can make it an option too. Like, I would appreciate that to be an option. Speaking of options that I really want in the game, the button mapping. I know on the Switch and the PS4 you can enable or disable custom button mapping, and there are a few, there's profiles, right? Which on the system level you don't have different button mapping profiles. You do for controllers. I mean, you do on the Switch for controllers, but it's like, it's global. You know, it's like, okay, well, you have a custom button mapping for this controller, do you want to use it? It's like, yeah, but I want a mapping for this one game, you know? And a lot of games do have, you know, let you change the button mapping, and I appreciate that. And the reason why that's important in this game is because this was a GameCube game. So they changed the buttons to kind of fit what people were used to in Final Fantasy. That being that, you know, A is confirm, obviously, in a lot of actions. And the big one, perfect example, is your menu. Your menu was always triangle in Final Fantasy. Well, not, you know, on the NES, obviously, because, 2 buttons. But that's been a long-standing tradition of just like your menu being triangle. So on the GameCube, the top button is Y. So they made Y be menu. And that felt familiar. It felt fine. It felt good. But Y is on the left. Y is square on the PlayStation. That doesn't make any sense. And like this was to feel in line with like the recent games, right? Because Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 and 10 actually were on PlayStation. So they wanted it to be a familiar layout. But now, if you're playing this game with a Pro controller on the Switch, it doesn't make any sense. The button mapping. And you don't want to change, like make a custom button assignment set essentially for just one game, because then you have to change it every time. But if the game just let me choose what buttons did what, we wouldn't have this problem. Another thing that's kind of strange, and like this isn't like I don't care as personally, it doesn't affect me, like I don't have a huge opinion on it. It is very strange. First off, that the menu button is different on the world map and when you're in a dungeon. That's very strange to me. But also, you can't use the analog stick to navigate the menu, which I guess it's because in multiplayer, I think, you can still use the analog stick to move around. It probably has something to do with the fact that most people played, when you played in multiplayer on the GameCube, you were using the Game Boy Advance with the Game Boy Advance like to GameCube connection cable. And on the Game Boy Advance, you got A, B, L, R, start, select, and a D-pad. There were no analog sticks. So it probably has something to do with that, because I'm pretty sure you can play the entire game with a D-pad. Still. And a lot of things weren't changed to kind of... And I guess that's kind of like this whole video in a nutshell. Most things were not changed from the GameCube version to kind of fit like modern expectations. And that's the real problem. And it was just like such a... There are so many things that need to be fixed, and there are a lot of things I would like to be fixed. So... let's see, what's the next thing here? So yeah, spell fusion. And I'm sure some people like the current way how spell fusion works, but I sure don't. So I mean, just an option in the settings would be great, because I like the single player spell fusion. It's much better. The other thing, real quick, these things are kind of more obvious and I think would bring more people into the game, is more customization. Like, more character customization would be great. I've seen the same, like, characters all over and just so many times. Especially if you want a lot of people to play the game, Square Enix. People want to make their character their own. And the fact that only your weapon changes, like visibly, I mean, you already have like 3 pieces that you can't see. Like your accessory, the your armor, and your secondary armor, which changes depending on your race. I mean, Ukes have the helmet, the belt for Selkies. I think it's the gloves for Lilties, and the Clavats with their shields. And I think the shields actually do look different. I can't remember. But yeah, just the different equipment actually looking different would be great. And being able to change your customization, like customize your character afterwards. Like, if you change your mind on something, you can change it. That would be great. It's not like, but no, it's just when you create your character, you get to pick like one of like 4 options after picking your tribe and your gender. Like 4 options is like, it's nothing. Finally. The other one that seems a little obvious to me is new maps and weapons. The quote-unquote new maps for this game, I think there was like 1, Mount Kalanda, I believe, or 2 or something. Most of the other ones are just reskins of the maps. And yeah, like every map has an alternate like skin or whatever. And that's fine, but I want more areas to explore. And like the new weapons, what I mean is like the weapons with the tricks, quote unquote. The focus attacks or whatever that can be like shortcuts to spells and stuff like that. I want more. Because again, like your seemingly arbitrary choice of like which tribe you are at the beginning of the game kind of determines what your ultimate thing is going to be, and that sucks. I want it like any tribe to be able to use any of those like ultimate things based on the blueprints and stuff. And I'm trying to like not spoil stuff at the same time for people, because I don't want like a big spoiler warning, even though I'm playing the last map. But I'm not going to get to the spoilery part in this video, because then the video would be quite long and I'd have to focus on gameplay and stuff, which I'm, avoiding because, yeah, I want to make this shorter. So those ones seem obvious. So here's 2 of the big ones that are more complicated. The big one that that I've heard from tons of people is shared progress, obviously. Being able to play it like you're both playing on the same system. This is a pretty easy thing when you're playing with somebody and you get that drop after a dungeon. Just give it to both players or all the people in that party. Like somebody has to host, right? Already inviting people, just make it like you're actually inviting them into your caravan temporarily. Whatever. Because now, if you want to both make progress, or all make progress, and you do a story mission, and you're all at the same point in the game, you have to basically take turns hosting that same mission, so you're doing the same mission a couple of times before you can go on to the next thing, so that everybody has the same amount of progress. It doesn't make sense. And again, there might be specific cases where that's good. Like maybe you don't want to make progress because you're in year 5 or whatever, and things happened, and you don't want to progress time in your game, but you want to like play some dungeons on somebody else's game, whatever. Again, make it a systems option before you even like load up your file. You can easily just have that option and like options like this on the main menu. The other thing is NPC Villagers. I would love that as an option. Because here's the thing with like progress in the game. You don't level up. You improve your character with artifacts and equipment. And treasures, which I don't understand. I don't remember what those are. But yeah, artifacts and equipment. Mostly artifacts. So if you want to... And how... Okay, with character progress and time, in order to have a full town, you need to have 8 characters that you create. And your family's craft improves kind of based on if you have a good relationship with them and if you send them stuff and all these things, and they will actually get better and be able to like make better things and have more products and all that stuff. Like my family in this file is they're merchants, so I try to keep them happy and send them stuff, and so they will carry better like end game items that I can buy cheaper than at other places. And that's a great benefit. And I wish there was this option so that your town, like an autofill option essentially, where the game would just like autofill your town, make sure all of the different like it's completely lived in, and whatever things you don't have, they're just NPCs that are not, you know, not playable characters, not playable families, I guess, that level up with your family. Because if you want to max out your town, you have to make 8 characters and max them all out. But here's the thing, as time progresses in the game, which is not character specific, that's actually shared. What year is it? Dungeons get harder. And so basically, if you want to have multiple characters and want them to be usable, you have to keep changing which character you're playing as. Which is terrible. And this is another one of those things. It was carried over from the GameCube version, and it really shouldn't have been. So, yeah, not great. And it's fine to have multiple characters and whatnot, but maybe have like the artifacts or whatever be able to like carry over to another thing. It doesn't matter how it's implemented. I'm just saying having NPC villagers would be great, because for the most part you're going to Alphataria and like Shella to like craft things, right, to make better stuff. But if you have a full town, like 8 characters that all have, you know, different, well, I mean, they have to have different crafts, but then you have all of the services in your town, which is much more convenient then because traversing the world map is very slow, and sometimes you just want to craft one specific thing and you have all the materials, you just have to go out of your way to go to the craftsman that can make you the thing. And sometimes it's easier just to be like, okay, well, this is my third mer drop, so after this I'm going to be back in town, and just having all the stuff in your hometown would be great. But as it is right now, that is very hard to have high-level craftsmen in everything. Again, because you're splitting your efforts among all these characters, so all these things can level up, and you're not really prepared for the upcoming dungeons and such. So as it is right now, it doesn't really make sense. And just having NPC villagers, an autofill thing, and they level up with at the same rate your current family is leveling up, would totally fix the problem. After all, like, it's not like the GameCube version where those other people and their families and stuff are actually other, like, player 2, 3, and 4. It's not how it works. So we talked about multiplayer crashes, Mog getting tired not being in multiplayer, spell fusion, shared progress, NPC villagers, more customization, all equipment being invisible, not just the weapons, new maps, new weapons, and yeah, that's pretty much everything. But really, at the very basic level, they need to fix the game. Like, they need to fix the crashes. That's pretty much a necessity. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, everybody. Thank you very much for stopping by and checking it out, and be sure to like and subscribe on your way out if you haven't already. And a special thank you to our TFAX channel members, Retro HD and Old Cranky Gamer. Thank you guys for checking out that join button down below, choosing to support the show a bit more directly. And yeah, I hope you guys had a good time. Let me know in the comments section what you guys want in upcoming patches, future updates to the game. And yeah, I'll catch you all later. Have a beautiful day, and until next time.